A lot of people in Belgium, like I said, they tried to everything disappeared the last time we had this nice talk. So I'll let you introduce yourself to the people of Belgium, who you are, and what your specialty is.
Well, thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this today. My name is Ron Gibson. I live in the United States and I live in Southern Oregon, which is the borders of the Pacific Ocean. To give you a little background, I've grown up in a cattle ranch, been around horses and cattle and farming all of my life. I have been exposed to much of what the land produces, and I'm a constitutional lawyer. This October will be about 50 years being in law. And but one of the things, to kind of go back to my early beginning, my dad planted hay, and it was just always fascinated me that, you know, you till the ground up and you plant some seed and miraculously something grows. And that has to do with food, it has to do with hay, crops, whatever. And then also at our ranch house, the county road went through it. And at that time was just a little old dusty road. But up and down that road, I live in what we call timber country. A lot of logging went on, and there were 15 or 20 log trucks a day went up and down our little old dusty road. Almost every day, some of the miners, there's a lot of mining, were very minerally rich in our part of the country. And so I learned very early the value of the land, and it's been deep rooted into me for all of the rest of my life. And I'm involved in land patents. I wrote a couple of books on land patents, and I've got people just like you there in Belgium. I never dreamed that I'd ended up being known in Belgium, you know, so that's a little bit of a kind of a cultural shock for me, and I'm thankful for it, but I never expected this thing to blossom and to bloom like it has. And what I do is help people to bring their true title forward of their land. Because folks, without land, you really have nothing. And I was talking with a group of people here about a month ago, and one of the guys said, well, that's not true. He said, I don't need to own land. And I said, well, why do you say that? And his comment to me was, well, I'll just go rent some land. And I said, really? I said, what if the person that you're trying to rent the land from says, no, I'm not going to rent it to you? And he kind of looked at me with a deer in the headlight look. And he said, well, I'll just go somewhere else. And I said, well, let's just talk about this a minute. What if that man won't lease you or rent you any ground either? And I said, let's say that that scenario continues on. I said, where are you going to live? Where are you going to lay your head? Where are you going to grow any crops to eat or do whatever it is that the good Lord directs you to do? I said, without land ownership, I'm going to say it again, you really have nothing, because it is from the ground there that all life comes from. Even in my Bible, it says that God took the dust of the earth and he made man. So there's something pretty special about this thing called land, earth, dirt, however you want to define it. And there's an old saying that says, and it goes like this: if it isn't grown, it's mined. And I remember years ago, the Department of Geology and Mineral Industries had a video that they would allow people to check out, and a fascinating movie or video. But it was a mining promotional video, but it covered every aspect of products that are mined. And they showed massive freeways, and they showed microscopic medical you know, uses and all, everything in between. And it's about an hour long. Excuse me. And toward the end of that video, the narrator asked a very profound question. And here was the question. Said, what would our life be like without mining? And so the camera moves up to where the clock is on the wall, and the clock disappeared. It went over to the toaster. The toaster disappeared. The coffee pot disappeared. The refrigerator. And it just went on and on and on until there was absolutely no walls. There was no structure. No, the nails and screws and lumber and everything was gone. And had it gone to its full extent, that woman would have been standing there absolutely with no clothes on, because it takes mined product for the textile industry, etc. But I think you get the point that I'm trying to make here. So I spent better part of my life addressing the land and the land ownership. And our right of land ownership is a God-given right. And in my seminars that I do, I present 11 of those scriptures and I read them. And they're all consistent with the very basic fact that God said, my people who will possess and own this land forever. So, I mean, that theme is throughout every one of those scriptures. And I don't know about you, but that's exciting to me, because when you go back in my Bible in Genesis, it said God gave man dominion over the entire earth, the fowl of the air, and the fish of the sea. So we have a tremendous power relative to land and the planet that we live on. Unfortunately, it's got into the wrong hands, a good portion of it, and this environmentalism is killing the world, not just the United States, but all of this. Excuse me. All of this environmental restrictions and whatever. I read a document, been probably 8-10 years ago, that here in the United States, we are losing about 11 or 1,200 acres per day through being withdrawn, it's being developed, whatever, of taking out of potential productivity or potential productivity. And so we're going to wake, and I've been screaming this forever, we're going to wake up one day with nothing to eat.
Yeah.
And in 1965, the United States here in our country had 2.5 years worth of surplus foods, grains, And in 2000, which is, 22 years ago, I read the follow-up report, there were 39 days of food surplus supply. Well, it's pretty hard to grow a garden in 39 days.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that, to me, that's a real danger. And, we've lost the farming initiative in and around most of the world, not all of it. There's still a lot of farming going on, but in our country, it's mostly corporate now. They ruined the family farmer. And so here we are now trying to figure out why we've got high food prices and why we got high fuel prices and why we've got high here 10, 15 years ago, you could buy a 2 by 8 8 feet long for about 98 cents. Now they're $5.59. So you multiply that, what it takes to build a home. No wonder people are building very small homes now. And so I'm just saying that there's a tremendous wrong that everyone is aware of. And I try to do my part to educate people. That's what I do now. I'm an educator. I do seminars all over the United States. I'm doing this video with you fine folks. And the wonderful thing about it, I've met some wonderful people such as you people, but there's a common thread between all of us. We want to be left alone by government, and we want to live our lives the way that God would have us lead a life and to raise our families and enjoy life that God gave us. And that's not the case. We've always got some pressure on us here and another pressure on us over there and whatever. And the main gist of land ownership is not only to possess it, but to enjoy it. Notice that possession and enjoyment. And when you have a tax system set up to where your property is in constant threat of being taken from you if you don't pay that tax bill, and there's no provision in law to pay taxes on private property anyway. And so that's an issue that we have really been fighting and we're gaining ground. And it takes people like you as well as across this nation. I get somewhere 50, 80 phone calls a day. I get 150 to 200 emails a day. And I'm telling you, I'm overwhelmed. And I had a gentleman here a while back, if I may say, I did some legal work for him, and we're sitting at his kitchen table, and we got all done. He grabbed a chair and spun it around, and he said, "Ron," he said, "I need to ask you a question." And I said, "What's that?" And his name was Rick. He said, "Who's your protege?" And he said, "Who's going to do this when you can't or won't or decide not to do it or something happens to you?" And I said, "Rick, let me ask you a question." I said, "Who do you know that has the background, who's got the heart for this, who will take the time and spends the time, and has a passion for this to basically do the rest of their life trying to teach people to bring their true title forward?" And he pulled back from his chair and he looks me square in the eye and he said, "Ron, I don't know of anybody." I said, "Rick, that's my answer. I don't know of anybody either." And, I've spent a lifetime of study. I don't, I don't smoke. I don't chew. I don't drink. I don't go with the girls that do. So to speak. A little of Ron's dumb humor there. But the point I'm trying to make is that I spent a lifetime of study, and people wonder, "Ron, how do you know so much?" And I don't claim to know it all, but studying has its benefit. And I would encourage a lot of your people to get away from that 6 o'clock news. And I don't know how you're structured there, but we got news media's bombarded the American people in Canada and Mexico and all over. And I'm telling you, they're leading them down the primrose path. So anyway, that's a little bit of my background. I love what I'm doing. I'm meeting wonderful people and we're getting the message out.